All right, what's up, guys? It's been a while. It's weekend after the Arnold, so like second week of March, third week of March, second week of March, end of the first week of March. Just wanted to pop in, give everyone kind of like a life update, make a couple of announcements, I suppose. Show plans and a couple different things. But just to recap, I suppose, since the Olympia. I've talked about this on the podcast, obviously, kind of my thoughts on the Olympia and everything that transpired there. And think back to the Olympia, it was definitely hard. I had very high expectations for myself going into that Olympia. I had a good, very long prep coming off my win in Vancouver. I felt really good going into the Olympia. I felt it was a very good opportunity for me to make a really good statement in such a awesome lineup as it was. And obviously, things kind of didn't go as I had hoped. Missed the mark a little bit. I made some dire posing errors and just lack of stage, confidence that I think really, was apparent to the judges, as well as some peaking errors that we made in the last kind of, it's hard to say if it was the last few weeks, last couple of days, pushed in too far, kind of glute chasing for conditioning, that combined with maybe some mistakes we made in terms of peak with water and sodium manipulation. I've talked about this more on the podcast, but yeah, it was just, some small mistakes at a very high pressure show, that ended up with a look I wasn't overly proud of and a placing I definitely wasn't proud of. And it wasn't easy. I mean, I definitely came off that Olympia feeling very embarrassed, really doubting myself, doubting my abilities as a bodybuilder, doubting my future as a bodybuilder. Wasn't quite really sure what was next for me, to be honest. So I took some time over Christmas after the Olympia, came back to Canada, spent some time with family, enjoyed Christmas with Melissa and my family. Did some fun stuff, did some snowboarding. Tried to, as much as I can, being me, mentally disconnect from bodybuilding for a little bit. And I'll say I wasn't overly successful. It's very hard for me, especially with the food. It's a constant, all day, every day kind of thing. And it's easy to say like, oh, just don't worry about it for a few days. But, when you've built a physique for 15 years and the importance of these tools and these resources like food and training, and, the impact they have on your physique, especially for me, it's very mentally hard to let go of that sometimes. And like I said, it can be hard to, kind of relinquish that control of factors that are so important towards your success in your career as a bodybuilder. So, did my best, took a little downtime over January and February, training I brought down to kind of like 4 days a week, push, pull, legs, arms kind of thing. Not pushing anything too crazy, just let my body have a little bit of break because it was a very long season. And the diet, I really stayed on diet as much as I could. I knew after the Olympia, I was very eager. The first feeling I felt was embarrassment, but then I had this overarching feeling of like wanting to get back on stage immediately and set things right, for myself, and my mind, just to prove to myself that, that wasn't, indicative of who I am as a bodybuilder. And I think, that more comes down to what I displayed in terms of my posing and less in terms of the peak. I think I could have still gone up there and not been, 100% in terms of my physique, and still presented it as such. You think of guys like Samson, how they present themselves with that confidence and that ferocity, and that aggressiveness on stage is something that I envy, and I definitely need to work on, for sure. Stage confidence is absolutely not one of my fortes. So, that was really the biggest thing I was feeling after the Olympias. I really just wanted like another chance. I was like, man, I wish the Olympia was again next weekend. I want to get back up on stage and make this right for my head, to prove to myself that that is not all I am as a bodybuilder, as a bodybuilder that's been, 7th at the Olympia twice and, won 5 pro shows, been 2nd at the Arnold. I just knew that wasn't a true display of who I can be as a bodybuilder. So, all right, so fast forward now, we're the weekend after the Arnold. I guess it's not really an announcement. I haven't talked about it on the podcast, but my plan is to do Toronto Pro in just under 13 weeks. So I've been kind of back at it into kind of prep mode for the last 3 weeks or so. And I guess announcement of the video here is that I have chosen to team back up with Matt Jansen. It's a very exciting change for me. It's like one of those things. It's like more things change, more things stay the same kind of thing. It's 4 years later here, and we're back kind of where I started with Matt. Matt and I worked together from 2015 to 2019. I won my first pro show with Matt. Did my first Olympia with Matt. There's a lot of history there. We're both with Ron Revive, obviously. And there's just a relationship and a trust that's already built there that made that decision. Not the decision to change coaches, that was a very hard decision, but the decision to choose Matt on the other end of that was a very easy decision. I know Matt knows me. He knows my mind, which I think is in my case probably one of the more important things than knowing my physique. That can be learned a lot faster probably than having that personal relationship and knowing someone's mind and kind of what makes them tick and how to help them succeed. And I don't undervalue the importance of rapport with a coach, and that these, to be successful with a coach can sometimes take years and time to build and learn an athlete. And like I said, learn them as a person and learn their body. And this is, one of the things I think is maybe feel a little more safe and a little more comfortable with Matt is that process was semi-expedited because of the history we do have together. Obviously I left Matt at the time in 2019. It just wasn't what I felt I needed at that given time. And I don't regret my decision that I made back in 2019. I thoroughly enjoyed my time with Patrick. We won 4 pro shows together, 2nd at the Olympia, or 7th at the Olympia twice, Arnold 2nd place. We accomplished some of the biggest things I've accomplished in my career together, and I will never take that for granted. And I hold those moments and those times I've shared with him, very near and dear to my heart. And especially even the Olympia prep. We were together for 2 weeks before the show and had a lot of great times together that even though we've ended up where we are now and me not working with him anymore, I don't regret those times, and will cherish them after my bodybuilding career is long done. So nothing but the greatest things to say about Patrick. He was an excellent coach. He always put his full effort and tried his absolute best to make sure I was at my best. And I very much appreciate that. But time has come for another change, and I think that change is back with Matt. Matt and I have been back together for the last 3 weeks, working together for the goal of Toronto Pro in the first week of June. So I'm very excited for that. I'm very excited to, see what Matt and I can do together. Matt was always a very excellent coach, but obviously in the time since I had worked with him last in 2019, Matt has really elevated his game as a coach. I think that's very indicative in his success with the guys he is working with. I mean, you look from Nick to Sean to, even the peaks with Brett and Charles, and these guys are all on the money 100% every single time. And Matt knows how to get the best out of these guys, and not only physically, but mentally. But even physically, he knows that these guys' physiques are different and different looks look better on different guys, and, kind of how to make each guy be as successful as possible. So long story short, I'm very excited to be back with Matt. Very excited for this journey that me and him have embarked on together. So I guess that's the big announcement of the video. I'll give a nice clickbait title for that one. And what else? So when I initially talked to Matt, there was a couple things that he really wanted to stress importance, especially for me with. And I think the biggest one, for me to gain is confidence in my physique and in my posing. So one of those things is obviously going to be, through our updates and working on that posing and, getting comfortable doing all my shots every update. I got comfortable in a state of, where I would just send a few poses so, Patrick could see front, back, and side just to see conditioning, and I wasn't running through all those poses every single update. And 100% honesty, that wasn't out of laziness. It was out of insecurity, I suppose. Not wanting to see something I didn't want to see. Not take an update and see a shot that's maybe not my favorite shot, like an abs and thigh or a side tricep when you're 10 weeks out, or my front double was a pose I didn't like for a very long time. So, I would just hit the shots that I knew would make me feel good and feel comfortable and feel confident as possible in my physique when I was taking these updates. And what I saved myself in the short term with feeling good setting updates obviously came back to bite me in the ass in the long term in terms of my confidence and my skill in my posing honestly diminished. It didn't, it's not even like it stayed the same. It degraded, from time of just not hitting those shots and not getting comfortable in those shots and comfortable seeing those shots. And then when you pair that with before the Olympia, we made some silly decisions to really try and really revamp my posing and make a lot of changes. And when you have someone that's already not very confident in a lot of shots and you're trying to, do crazy, changes to transitions and how I'm hitting the poses. When I got on stage, I was really like shell shocked of, I don't even know what I'm supposed to be hitting here. I really just, I didn't feel confident in my physique to begin with the last couple hours going in. And then when you combine that with, not feeling 100% confident in your posing as well, plus the changes, my brain just scrambled and I really was not hitting even what I knew from the past. And I wasn't even doing the changes we did from the beginning, from the recent changes before the Olympia. So it kind of just ended up in like a confused, shell-shocked appearance of a posing routine or what my individual session there in prejudging. So that's definitely one of the big things Matt and I want to work on is just, really stepping up that confidence in myself, in my posing, in my physique. Other than that, like obviously, physique things are going to be physique things. I've been doing this a long time. There's still going to be things that obviously need to always be improved. I still want to have more depth in my chest. I still want to have more, thickness and width in my back and my lats. I still want to, improve my triceps a little bit. There's still things there in my calves, obviously. Things like that that are always going to be things that are, that's the point of bodybuilding. We're always chasing that white rabbit of improving our physique, and once something improves, then you bring something else to balance it up, and something's always kind of following the next thing. So that's kind of where we're at. So I guess that's everything. That's a good recap, I guess. Right? Anything else?
How you said you were feeling after the Olympia that you were like having doubts, and that like to solve that feeling, you just wanted to get back on stage, but you couldn't. Mm-hmm. You're obviously not alone in that feeling. Mm-hmm. Like I think everyone in every like high level avenue is going to have those feelings, especially when like the outcome isn't what they expected or wanted. But when you don't have the option to like get back on stage and like have that immediate obvious feedback to fix the doubt,
sure,
how do you do that so that you can be your most powerful self going into this prep when you weren't able to do that, like get back on stage to solve that feeling?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't easy. I mean, I really had to, because initially then when my first initial thing was like, okay, well, there's not a show immediately. Let's do the Arnold, I'm like, let's get in the Arnold. And then I really had to take a moment to think, is this going to be enough time for me to make the changes that I want to make? Or am I just like slapping a Band-Aid on, an issue that needs more mending than that? And that was really what I think it came down to. I wanted to make sure that I was ready, and not just physically, mentally as well. That I was, we kind of digested everything that happened to the Olympia, at the Olympia, and I wasn't making a rushed and rash decision based out of emotion and not what was necessarily the best course of action for my career or for me as a bodybuilder. So, when I kind of sat and, me and Matt had some conversations after we started talking, and, I thought it would be best to have a little more time, let my body chill, relax, take a good long health phase, try and get my head right, and then kind of slowly ramp up into a show a little, late spring, early summer, or something like that. And Toronto is the one I chose just because it's a show that's, very near and dear to my heart. It's one of the two big Canadian pro shows. I've won Vancouver Pro. I've been close to winning Toronto. I came second in 2019, which I was actually working with Matt for that. I've been fourth there, fifth there, whatever. I've kind of been all over the placings in that show. And it's one that's kind of like us as a Canadian, especially East Coast Canadians, is kind of like your home court show, and I think for me right now to have that fan support and to have all my family and my friends there will go a long way for me, and something that I really enjoyed in Vancouver when I did Vancouver Pro. So that's something I definitely want to experience again. Having that Canadian fan support and, a lot of people that I know and recognize and can feel that support and energy of the crowd. So that's definitely something I'm very much looking forward to. And yeah, I guess that's probably good. We've been talking for a while. But yeah, so that's the big announcement. Back with Matt Jansen, Toronto Pros, 13 weeks. Other things in the docket, I'll be guest posting at Fuad's show, which is a couple weeks before Toronto, 2 or 3 weeks before Toronto, so I'm very excited for that. And I'm doing another guest posting in Alabama the second week of June, so a week or two after. So luckily I'll be in half decent shape doing a few guest postings. It's been a while since I've guest posed. For a while I'd kind of turned those opportunities down, because I didn't feel confident in getting on stage and putting on a performance and, being someone that is really have any value as a guest poser other than just having a decent level physique. So I think putting myself kind of out of my comfort zone a little bit more and doing things like this, especially Fuad's show, I think will be a good, kind of like a good break the ice before Toronto to kind of get out there and, feel some stage lights and get a little more confident on stage, and just feed off that energy from the crowd a little bit and kind of, get the wheels turning before Toronto. So I'm very excited for that. So nervous, but excited. And I think that's good. I need to embrace those moments a little bit more. So yeah, I think that's about a wrap for it today. We're going to be getting back and getting some good training for you once we get more into the swing of prep here. I'm sorry I haven't been posting more since the Olympia. I needed some time to just kind of unwind and, when my training is not feel full-fledged yet and, my physique is kind of in like a downtime. I'm not one of those people that wants to just show that stuff, but maybe I should. I'm sure you guys would like to see that, when things aren't always, in prep mode and I just feel there's more interesting things to show then, but I know that people like to see kind of all facets of the life of bodybuilding. So, we'll get back into that swing shortly here. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys, and we will catch you in the next one.